UFC 314 just took place, and so we have some fights to make. Okay, we are going to start with the winner of the main event, Alexander Volkanovski, and new and again UFC featherweight champion after beating Diego Lopez by unanimous decision. Great comeback from Volk. I did a recap on the card yesterday. Great comeback from Volk after 2 knockout losses against Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria. Now, really all that's left for him to do at featherweight right now, because Gene Silva is not ready for a title shot. He just beat Bryce Mitchell, who's ranked 13th. So we're not going to see Gene Silva Volkanovski yet. In the meantime, I think you'd have to do, at this point, the only person that has an argument for a title shot, maybe besides Yair Rodriguez, is Movsar Evloev. That's the fight to make. 18-0. They were potentially going to book him against Aaron Pico at the Apex in May. That fight ended up getting scrapped. But Movsar versus Alexander Volkanovski, maybe even International Fight Week. It just depends on how quick of a turnaround Volkanovski can make, because he did get kind of busted up there. So Volkanovski versus Movsar, that's the fight to make. Moving on from there, the loser of the main event, Diego Lopez, he put on a great performance and showed that he can hang with the absolute best featherweight of all time, even though he's not the best in the world right now. Win or loss, I probably would have booked this fight, but Yair and Diego Lopez, there's some heat on it. They had some beef at the press conference. They're doing a pay-per-view in Mexico in September. That gives each of these guys 5 months off. That's not too short of a turnaround, and that's not too long of a layoff. So Yair, Diego Lopez, possible co-main event in Mexico, possibly 5-round co-main event in Mexico for UFC 320 in Guadalajara. For both of these guys, I think that's the fight to book regardless. Moving on from there, we have the winner of the co-main event, Paddy Pimblett, who had a terrific performance, dominated Michael Chandler, and TKO'd him in round 3. Paddy's him. I think you have to give him a massive step up. However, I don't think that the stars of the division like Oliveira, Poirier, and Gaethje are really going to care to go up against Paddy right now. So I think this is how you get somebody who just pulled out of a title fight on 1 day's notice back in the good graces of the UFC. That's Arman Tsarukyan. I think you do Paddy Pimblett, Arman Tsarukyan, 2 elite grapplers, 1 elite jiu-jitsu guy, and 1 very high-level wrestler and scrambler. I think this makes a ton of sense. Arman Tsarukyan takes this fight with a much lower-ranked Paddy Pimblett, who's going to be ranked like 7th come the rankings drop tomorrow, going up against number 1 ranked Arman Tsarukyan. Pretty much a number 1 contenders fight. I mean, Islam might be moving up to 170, but there is a bunch of guys that are right on the cusp of title shots, so we might have to see him wait, especially if Belal Muhammad beats Jack Della Maddalena. So I think you do Arman Tsarukyan versus Paddy Pimblett. I think you do Max Holloway versus Poirier 3, or I don't think that's the best fight to make for Dustin, but I think that's what they're going to do. And then I think you do Oliveira, Topuria. They're probably going to give Gaethje a title shot, not going to lie. But anyways, for the sake of this video, Paddy versus Arman Tsarukyan. Moving on from there, Michael Chandler, enough with him getting big fights. I'm not going to put Conor McGregor in this square. Enough with him getting big fights. It's time for him to do what Gaethje did when he fought Fiziev the first time, what Poirier did when he fought Benoit Saint-Denis. It's time for, and this isn't even that crazy of like a step down in talent. I mean, he just lost to Makhachev. That's Renato Moicano, somebody that deserves a big fight and shouldn't have to fight down in the rankings after losing. He was booked against Beneil Dariush, but now it's looking like they're going to do Mauricio Houfi against Beneil Dariush, potentially International Fight Week. So I think you do Michael Chandler, Renato Moicano, maybe September or August, something like that. October at the latest. I mean, Moicano fought in January. Depends on how busted up Chandler is. I could even see this being like a July edition. Like if they do some sort of if they do Poirier versus Holloway 3 for the BMF as a pay-per-view, I could see this being the co-main event, like a Chandler Moicano, something like that. And I wouldn't mind that fight much either. And that gives Moicano a high-profile fight to keep pushing towards the title, even though he probably won't beat Makhachev, but if he was to ever face him again. But a step in the right direction and a very big fight. Moving on from there, we have Patricio Pitbull, who took a decision loss fairly convincingly with a couple of dangerous moments where he almost got Yair in an armbar. Not a bad performance. Yair was just really dialed in, and Patricio Pitbull's like 40 or 39 years old. He's got 45 fights. Yair just a lot bigger, a lot rangier, and a lot faster. I didn't think he had much of a chance here. So Pitbull's a big name. You can't have him go and try to build himself up outside the rankings. I don't think that makes any sense at all for Patricio Pitbull. I think you do a relatively big name in the featherweight division that is coming off of a loss and ranked 10th. I think you do Josh Emmett. He just fought Lerone Murphy like a week or two before UFC 314. Both of these guys are going to be relatively on the same timetable. Both of them lost by decision. Didn't take some insane amount of damage. I think you do Patricio Pitbull and Josh Emmett. Moving on from there, we have probably the biggest, the most hyped prospect that we've seen in the featherweight division, honestly, since Ilia Topuria. That is Gene Silva. You got to give him a big step up. And there's not a whole lot of interesting matchups, especially guys coming off losses. You can't really put him in there for a title shot just yet, but I think you do Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen sat out for a while. It's been almost a year. He beat Giga Chikadze. Not really the best win, to be honest. So I think you do Gene Silva. Arnold Allen would be a sick fight on the feet and a chance for Gene Silva to have a potential highlight reel knockout or highlight reel type of performance that catapults him into a title shot or a number one contenders fight. I could see maybe as Gene Silva, Aaron Pico. That would be kind of fun. But I think you do Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. Get Gene Silva into the top 10. Moving on from there, we have Bryce Mitchell, who frankly got smoked by Gene Silva. Honestly, he didn't look bad. He just looked so outmatched athletically, with the speed, with the power. All of his takedowns failed. He couldn't get to Gene Silva's hips, and the couple times that he did, he got shucked off easily. I think it's time for Bryce Mitchell to train at like an actual gym. I think it's time for him to go to a super team, American Top Team, Fortis MMA, like something that's over where he lives, Killcliff FC, something, because he needs to make a change. And he needs to have like a legit strength and conditioning coach and all of that, because he looks slow and weak compared to Gene Silva, and Gene Silva's the next generation at featherweight. So if Bryce Mitchell wants to continue to compete in that division, I think he's got to make a change, honestly. I don't mean to be harsh towards Bryce. I actually picked him to win, but he looked severely outmatched in that fight, and I can't believe I picked him. So I think you do him against somebody who's not the most dangerous and deserves a profile matchup, not a high-profile matchup, but a profile matchup. That's Youssef Zalal. He's won 4 in a row since coming back to the UFC. He just beat Calvin Kattar. He is ranked above Bryce, actually, but I think he needs some sort of star building, and I think a matchup and press conference on a pay-per-view, that type of stuff, with Bryce Mitchell would be the perfect opportunity for Youssef Zalal to build his name and a perfect opportunity for Bryce Mitchell to bounce back. And he didn't look great in this last fight with Gene Silva, but also, you know, more importantly, his win before that was Crone Gracie, and that almost doesn't count. So Youssef Zalal, Bryce Mitchell, that's the next fight for me. Now, moving on from there, Dom Reyes, literally McGregor Aldo'd Nikita Krylov. He's one win from a title shot. I think you got to put him against somebody who's also one win from a title shot after beating Jan Blachowicz. I think you do Dom Reyes, Carlos Ulberg, International Fight Week, or July pay-per-view. They're both relatively on the same time frame. Ulberg didn't take a bunch of damage against Jan. Dom Reyes got a first-round finish. You can turn him around pretty quick. Maybe you put him on that potential July pay-per-view where I'm kind of building that card anyway. Poirier Holloway 3 for the BMF main event. Chandler Moicano co-main. Dom Reyes and Ulberg on the main card. And fuck it, maybe you even turn around Gene Silva real quick too, and you do him and Arnold Allen on that card. So like, there's a lot you can do for the July and August pay-per-views just off of what happened tonight. So, and who knows? If International Fight Week is going to be like DDP Hamza, I could see the July pay-per-view being Volkanovski Movsar, something like that. So maybe with a BMF Holloway Poirier co-main, something like that. Who knows? But that's probably a main event. So moving on from there, we got Reyes, Olberg, #1 contender fight. And then you probably do like Yuri and Jan Blachowicz. But we got Dan Ige here. One, not a great win against an unranked guy. I think you give him a guy that's ranked like 2 spots higher than him that's coming off a loss, Giga Chikadze. Last fought in July. This kind of makes sense to me. And then moving on from there, Virna Jandiroba beat Yan Xiaonan relatively convincingly. Typically not the type of win that would get you a title shot, but they don't want Weili moving up to challenge Valentina Shevchenko, as you can tell, because you have Shevchenko, Manon Fior happening next month. So that means Weili's staying at strawweight, and there really isn't anyone else. So Weili and Virna Jandiroba. So there we have it. We got Volk and Movsar for the title. And then co-main event in Mexico, UFC 320 in September. You do Diego Lopez, Yair Rodriguez. I think then you do Paddy Pimblett, Arman Sarukian, winner potential title shot. And then we got Chandler Moicano. I think that's a sick fight. Pitbull versus Josh Emmett. I think that's a sick fight. And that could be a pay-per-view main card. A co-main event for a fight night with fans, or even an Apex main event if they're still going to keep doing the Apex. Gene Silva, Arnold Allen, something like that. Bryce Mitchell, Youssef Zalal, Dom Reyes, Carlos Olberg, Dan Ige, Giga Chikadze, and Virna Jandiroba. Title shot against Weili Zhang. Let me know your thoughts down below. Did you like this video? Then like and subscribe down below. I also do multiple live streams per week, along with behind the scenes content and members only live streams for our channel members. So become a channel member for access to bonus content. It's only $5 per month, and it greatly helps the channel's growth. I also do a podcast with my best friend Bo, and I have a non-MMA channel as well called Wyatt's World. You can check both of those out linked below.